Welcome to Well Coached, a podcast about how people, sales, profit, and self can transform your business. I'm your host, Chris Weinberg, and I have helped hundreds of entrepreneurs get into their highest productivity zone and become corporate enough to succeed. Let's get into today's episode. Hey team, welcome to today's episode of the Well Coached podcast. We are going to get nitty-gritty today. We're going to focus on mastering cost controls. This is within the segments of people, sales, profit, and self. Again, following up on a recent episode of sharing numbers and how to share those numbers. Now we're going to talk about inside of cost control, how to impact those. These are going to be takeaways that you can implement immediately. So let's dive into it. So deep diving into cost controls, here's the thing. There are so many folks in business that when they start out in business are just measuring revenue, right? And there are all kind of books out there about drive revenue, all of which is important and true. As important is what are you taking home at the end of the day, right? You've probably heard that quote many times. It's not what you make, it's what you take home. I think that has some true validity to it. And so we're going to talk today about how can you capture more dollars down to the bottom line. The concept here that we're going to focus on is cost of goods sold and where it fits into a business's profit and loss statement. Okay, so here's where cost of goods sold fits on a P&L statement. Of course, we have revenue, and then right after that is cost of goods sold. Okay, then right after that, we get our gross margin. So right away, we have some indication of, are all of these revenues minus certain expenses going to carry through to the bottom line? That cost of goods sold is often the heaviest number that we're carrying, not always, but often the heaviest number that we're carrying and one that needs to be paid a ton of attention to. I can't tell you how many folks I've worked with in the past where the cost of goods sold, and this happens a lot with early stage entrepreneurs, they're so excited to be generating revenue. They may not have their purchasing power in check or their procurement process in check yet. So they kind of just let it ride. It's not top mind awareness, because top mind awareness is getting lift off with revenue. But pretty soon after that, we need to be diving into cost of goods. We manage those in 5 specific ways. So we're going to get into that now. The 5 controls of cost of goods sold, and this works for just about any business, okay? Pretty tangible to any business, is ordering it well, receiving it well, storing it well, making it to specification, and finally, getting paid. We're going to dive into what each one of those mean, but those are the 5 controls that if you're paying a lot of attention to each one of these, your chance for success on the cost of goods sold line and therefore the gross margin line and therefore flowing through to the bottom line have a much better chance for success. What does order it well means? Order it well means how do we get the product that we need or the ingredients that we need or the parts that we need to build or sell our widget in the most appropriate way. That might be the best deals from vendors and suppliers. That might mean that we need to comparison shop, quality checks, negotiations on special contracts for locked-in prices. So many young entrepreneurs don't do this, right? Because they either think that the number is the number. Price, everything's negotiable. And then the other tricky part of that is cheapest ain't always best, right? So measuring price versus quality, that get what you pay for, certainly means things. And then oftentimes I'll see companies, this is rampant in the restaurant business as well, will cherry pick vendors. And so they may buy lettuce here, they may buy onions over here, they may buy bananas from another. And while they may be saving a few pennies, people do this with gas as well, while they may be saving a few pennies by using multiple vendors, there's an opportunity cost to that. How much time am I spending not in front of my customers or not training my staff to save a little bit of pennies? Instead of, what we would encourage is pick a vendor and go negotiate good margin cost plus pricing so that you can put that on autopilot. You've got your purchasing under control. You're ordering it well. You've done the quality checks. You know the prime vendor that you want to use. Negotiate some type of margin price agreement or locked-in pricing. Not doing that and not checking it regularly will creep on your margins in a big, big way. I've seen plenty of businesses where the cost of goods sold was more than revenue because they just weren't paying enough attention to how they're ordering things. The second one is receiving it well. Now you've sourced your vendors. You've got your pricing in line. You know the quality of the product that you have anticipated to order. Now we need to receive it well. This is critical in any business, and when it's poorly managed, it can wreak havoc on the P&L, and sometimes you don't even know it's wreaking havoc on the P&L. What I mean by this is have a process for receiving. Anytime something comes in, if you don't have the ability to have one person in charge of procurement, then at least have a process for every box that comes in. We open it, we put it against the statement or the purchase order, and we make sure that the quality of what we're getting and the quantity of what we ordered is correct, right? Oftentimes, suppliers can make mistakes. They may short an order by accident. The delivery driver may have dropped off your box of whatever it is to the last stop by accident. Businesses are notorious for not paying attention in this area of receiving. Did I get exactly what I ordered? Does it match the invoice? Does it match the purchase order? And it is in the shape that I anticipated it to be in. That is what receive it well means. Always best if you can have one or two hands in that cookie jar. But at the very least, everyone that receives anything needs to understand, what did we order? It's on a piece of paper. What came in the box? Do the two match? The next is store it well. So now we've got the product. We've done a good job of figuring out pricing. We've done a good job of figuring out how we receive it. Now it's inside of our building. The third cost control is store it well. Improper storage leads to theft, waste, and ultimately profits down the drain. That can be a lettuce in a restaurant or inventory in a retail business. How are the goods stored? Lots of folks use what's called a FIFO system, first in, first out. How do you even manage that? Label things when they come in, label it by date, and then lock it up, right? Deterrence is a great way to help shrink theft. Locks tend to do that. Secure storage. All kind of real world examples here where we've ordered it well. We've got restaurant business notorious, liquor, right? Liquor may be left out. Well, some nefarious person's going to pour themselves a drink or steal bottles given the opportunity to do that. That can be an employee, that can be a customer, it can be a vendor, right? So storing it well means everything. If it's a perishable, label it front and center. Things need to look like a candy store in terms of organization so that everyone can see very easily that everything has a home, everything has a time, everything has a date. Order to the process. Protect your inventory to prevent losses from spillage or theft. Number 4, make it to specification. I'm going to stick with the restaurant business just for a minute. This is where restaurants can absolutely blow it, but so can anyone else making something that has ingredients or a set number of something into the product. Let's say that the restaurant is selling burgers and fries. They have done a great job of costing out their menu, and they know that to sell a $15 hamburger and fries, if they make it to specification, is going to cost them a third of that, $5. And so let's say that specification calls for 7 ounces of French fries. Well, if we just say that in a manual or in our own head, how does the cook know that, right? Have we trained? Do we have the right size pieces of equipment, the right size bowls, the right size tongs to where we can check and verify that 7 ounces doesn't turn into 10 ounces, right? Because every time we're moving, whether that's a hamburger patty, whether it's too many fries, every time we're outside of our, how did we decide our specifications are going to look, the margin becomes eroded. Businesses generally don't die all at once. They die in little pieces. And this is one of those little pieces that can undermine a business big time, right? When you start using more product to make your widget than the specifications called for, you're in trouble. And that happens a little bit at the time over time as a constant drain on the P&L. The way around that is train, train, train. Standard portions, standard specifications, and the right tools to help make that happen. The 5th and final one is get paid. So oftentimes folks make the product. They've done so many things right. We've ordered it well. We've received it well. We've made it to the specifications of the recipe. But for whatever reason, we don't get money for it. In a restaurant, that could be discounts. That could be buying our friends a free beer. In a retail situation, that could be overly gifting influencers or theft issues. anything that keeps us from getting money in the drawer. It could be that our inventory is too hard to move. Maybe the way that people pay us, maybe we have too many restrictions on that, right? In terms of how do I interact with you? Can I Venmo? Can I credit card? Can I cash? But when we don't get the money in the drawer, none of it matters, right? So we want to make it super easy for people to give us money, but we also want to make sure that we are getting money. If you're a business owner, I'm going to stick with the restaurant analogy for a second. I would encourage you to pay for everything you eat in there. And here's why. When you order a hamburger and you just ask the bartender to ring it up for you or get you one, or the chef to make you a burger, and you don't pay for it, you're subconsciously teaching that staff that it's okay to take stuff, okay? Now, that doesn't mean I don't want you to give your employees a great meal, but we want to be able to account for it. And so what I would encourage you to do as an owner, when you order said hamburger, have them ring it up so they see subconsciously we are in the process of paying for things. Now, on the back end, of course, you can cancel that out. You can pay the credit card through your own company, whatever. But we want to show employees things here get paid for. Because remember, as we mentioned in a previous episode, at some point, the employees are going to subconsciously mimic your behavior. They're never going to outrun you. They're going to mimic you. So your standard needs to be high enough in all areas, in particular, how we collect money into things and how we control what we give away. The 5 cost controls here of order it well, receive it well, store it well, make it to specification, and get paid, or I like to call it get the money in the drawer. If you are focused on these 5 things within your team and with your team, your cost of goods sales are going to be in good shape. I guarantee it. If you're paying attention in these 5 lanes, cost of goods sold should absolutely come in line and be able to maintain consistently. So get out there, put these into your business immediately, and let's get on with it. Thanks a ton for looking in on us today. That's it for today. See you guys next time on the Well Coached Podcast.
Well, guys, that's a wrap for today. We thank you a ton for listening and looking forward to the next episode where we'll continue this journey on how becoming corporate enough can put you in your highest productivity zone to create a successful, profitable, and purpose-driven business for you.